Welcome to Stars Podcast, your growth mindset mecca. We are all about self-leadership principles here at Stars Podcast. Our guests come from all over the world with very unique stories of how they hack their way into success. As you'll quickly find out, nothing happens overnight. And as always, enjoy the journey. This episode is brought to you by NF Daddy's NFT Project. We are 5 dads with a shared why, a passion to help others safely enjoy the NFT and crypto space just as we all have. This project symbolizes how hard work and collaboration can achieve a dream. The NF Daddies team is focused on the mental and physical well-being of our community while promoting NFT and crypto literacy through the NF Daddies Academy. Our mission is to help launch 100 NFT projects and onboard 1,000 of our friends. That's right, 100 projects, 1,000 friends into the NFT space. Check us out, nfdaddies.io, and you can find us on all of our socials at nfdaddiesnft.
All right, awesome. Hey guys, welcome back. This is Ron Jordan over at Stars Podcast, coming out of Rocinante Studios in Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania. Today we have a guest coming into our studio, and I'm about as excited as you can be for a guest to come on, because it is not often that you get to get an ultra marathon runner, 2 of them in the same room, and be able to actually talk about what we have going on, because we're training so damn much. So without further ado, Kevin Murray, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have the shirt on, Sarah Soldiers. Let's hear about what Sarah Soldiers is and kind of where Kevin Murray gets his start running. Have you always been a runner?
In a previous life, definitely in my younger years.
Okay.
So the Sarah Soldiers is in 2018. I've got a dog going here in the background.
Dogs are fine. Yeah, it never fails that a dog will start barking as soon as we start talking. So don't even fret. It's all good.
She's been quiet the whole time. So in 2018, a police officer that I worked with at Kansas City, Missouri Police Department, Sarah Nasser, she was diagnosed with ALS. Just a horrific diagnosis at such a young age. She started putting her story out on social media, and just inspired a lot of people with the way she's approached this fight and tackled this disease. Sarah Soldiers are just a hashtag that kind of was developed as her soldiers that are supporting her and getting her message out and helping in whatever way we can.
Yeah. So for those of us who don't know what ALS is, what is ALS and what is it? Why is it so devastating?
ALS is commonly known as Lou Gehrig's disease. Basically, in a nutshell, it just shuts down the body's ability to move and to function.
Mm-hmm.
It's just there's no cure right now, and it's a death sentence at this point.
I just can't even believe that that's still the case with it, because it causes the muscles to atrophy, correct? Like and then it attacks the central nervous system. Is that, from what I remember, that's sort of what I remember from it?
Correct. Yeah. Muscles atrophy because messages aren't being sent to and from the muscles. You lose usage of it, and it just goes from system to system and your body shutting everything down.
Yeah.
Sarah's fortunate that 3 years into her diagnosis, she still has her voice. She can still speak. She has control of that. So if there is a bright spot in her diagnosis, she still has that.
That's something that my wife and I talk about quite a bit, is when you have these conversations just randomly, is if we were on our deathbed, our biggest fear is being cognizant, but not being able to talk or tell you what's going on with us, because we lose our voice or we lose our ability to talk because of a feeding tube or something like that. Your voice is so important to be able to communicate and to be able to effectively let people around you know what's going on. And for her to always have that in the back of her mind, that would have to be a difficult situation. So when you guys are using the hashtag and wearing the shirts, what is, other than drawing attention to the cause, what what are you guys doing to draw attention to the cause? Let me ask you that.
There's a lot of us out here just doing what we can to help her, but really she is probably the biggest one getting the word out and drawing attention to the cause. She was big. I don't know how familiar you are with Major League Baseball, but this year they did a Lou Gehrig's Day at each ballpark in June. Sarah's on a committee that really helped spur that and get that going. She's a huge voice in the ALS community. And ultimately, the goal is to get the word out, to get some support, get opportunities and availability to treatments, and ultimately a cure. It seems like the treatments are really being held up. There's no reason to hold up a treatment when there's no side effect that can be worse than what the disease does.
Yeah. What are some of those? I'm not familiar at all. So I'm curious. Do you know some of the treatment modalities that they're sort of being held up?
There's several treatments out there that are experimental phases, and I'm not real familiar with them. But I know that Sarah and a lot of other folks at the ALS are clawing and scratching and fighting to get opportunities at these treatments, and just being held up right now.
Yeah. Well, we're going to do what we can over here at Stars Podcast to make sure that we put the word out there too. And we appreciate having you on to, draw attention to it. So on the opposite end of the spectrum is you then, somebody who can't move around and his muscle atrophy and all of those things that are going on. Then there's you on this side that you're out here you're building muscle every day and really going after it and getting after it pretty hard. So you said in a former life that you were a runner. Now, if you want to go back there, we can, but what spurred you back into running?
So it was actually early 2019. So about 2.5 years ago. I was 47 years old, and really bored, just unfulfilled. Every day was Groundhog Day. Get up, go to work, go to the gym, family priorities, responsibilities, go to bed, get up and do it again. And not unhappy. I had a great life, very happy, just very unfulfilled. And one day I just told myself, I need a mission. I need something that I'm training for, something to shoot for. And initially that mission was a indoor sprint triathlon that they had at a local gym here. The triathlon was about 8 weeks out, and I signed up for it. But I had a huge issue in the fact that I didn't know how to swim, and I had 8 weeks to figure it out.
Oh my goodness.
I hired a swim coach. She was awesome. She had me legitimately swimming in about 2 weeks. I trained for this event like it was the Olympics. I was in the pool 5-6 days a week doing drills, training with her. And somewhere along that 8 weeks, I started running again a little bit. I hadn't ran in years, and I had the same excuse as everybody else does. My knees were trash. They're torn up. I have disc issues in my back. I can't run was my mind. But I needed to run a little bit for that sprint triathlon. And I thought, what the hell, let's sign up for an ultra marathon too while we're at it. I found a local one here in Kansas City that was on September 11th. So that race was a timed event. It was 9 hours and 11 minutes, and you run as many 1 mile loops as you can. So I was staring down the barrel of a sprint triathlon, didn't know how to swim, and a 9-hour ultra marathon coming up, and I hadn't ran in years. And I trained for both of those events again, like they were the Olympics. And that's kind of where it started.
So whenever you sit there and you created a situation that most people wouldn't want to even think about, but you purposefully created that situation because you were, and I loved how you said it, you were happy, but unfulfilled, because that's literally how I feel on many of occasions is like, I'm happy. Like I have what I need, but what is filling up my cup in terms of like these bigger goals or these bigger reasons for being around on this rock flying through space? What is that for us? And whenever you're creating situations that really, I equate them to almost like, I don't know how familiar you are, or if you're even into historical, like war books or anything in terms of like kings and being able to like go out into the wilderness and survive on your own, like these epics, almost like a Herculean situation. And it seems like anytime that we seem to be unfulfilled is we need these epics. We need these big things to go through to really appreciate what we have, and to not only appreciate what we have, but then to our abundance we spread around, and that's similar to what you are ended up doing. So whenever you're creating these situations, like how are you able to eat the elephant? How do you do that?
Sure. When this first started, I think I was so inexperienced, so naive. I didn't realize that 8 weeks out from a triathlon is no time to decide you need to learn how to swim. And signing up for a 9-hour ultra marathon is my first organized race ever. I don't know. It didn't sound unattainable to me for some reason. Again, I think I was so naive. I've never, at that point, had never even run a 5K. So that day I did 41 miles was my first event ever. I finished in 4th place, and it was a brutal day. It was 95 degrees. We started at noon. But I just think I was so naive. I didn't know that wasn't possible. So I guess my inexperience was a gift to get started. But eating the elephant, and that's something I've kind of come up with, and I'm sure I stole it from somebody. I didn't come up with it, but when elephant's on the menu, you better order it. But it's one bite at a time, and it's a long journey to get through that plate of elephant.
It really is, and there's only so much of it that you can digest at one time, and that's the part I think that separates some people. Is we all know that we got to chop this thing up, and we know that we got to take it in bite-sized portions. But how do we do it so we don't burn ourselves out or get hurt? And that's the part that really, like myself, whenever I first started, I was very similar to you. Like I was so naive that I was like, I'll just go run a 50K. What's the big deal? What could go wrong? I did some mileage in the summer. I thought I was ready, and you get to the race and you're like, oh, holy crap. This is way different than running on the road. I'm on a trail. I'm, going up and down elevation change, all of those things. Were there any injuries that happened during that first race that were sort of lingering, that maybe you changed the way that you were training?
The way I did this, I was 47 years old when I started this journey. I hadn't raced in a long time, and I didn't have time to build a base. My first run was 2 miles, and 8 weeks later I was up to 20 miles, and then it was race day. So every day since that point, it's tough to get out of bed. Those first 20 steps, I'm not for sure if I'm going to make it. That first race, I didn't necessarily have any big injuries. I had a hamstring issue in the final few weeks, and during the race, it cramped the whole time. But that first race, my biggest issue was nausea. I didn't know what I was doing with nutrition. It was 90 degrees. Since then, it seems like I'm amazed at the guys and the women who can go out there and do a race one weekend and then do another one the next weekend. It takes me several months in between races. And since then I've got 3 or 4 injuries at all times that I've been training through. And I think just simply because I've never had that base, I've never established that base. A lot of folks that are in this ultra marathon game have been running since they were kids, since high school. They did cross country, and I just don't have that base. So that's something I've been revisiting this last week since my last race. And I'm like, maybe I need to take some time and build up a little bit of a base before I just, I just show up and destroy my body and grind through it and somehow get through them.
Well, even though that you're saying that you're just showing up and destroying your body, is like, most people stop. Most people, whenever they feel pain, they stop. But as an ultra marathon runner, I know that you feel pain, but you don't stop. What do you say to yourself, or what are you thinking about when those times happen? Like when you start cramping up and you start getting nausea, What is, I don't know if you go into David Goggins at all. Do you listen to David Goggins?
That was the origination of this journey. I saw Mr. Goggins speak in person in 2015, and that was kind of what spurred this.
So what is your cookie jar?
My cookie jar, and it's strange, as a transformation coach, as a personal performance coach, I really love to inspire others and push them to be their best. But for my own personal endeavors, I operate on the other side of the coin. I operate with a chip on my shoulder. And that's a tough balance between, running angry and then also trying to be positive and inspirational.
Sure.
But my cookie jar it's a chip on my shoulder, and inside that chip is all of my failures, all the times I didn't measure up, every time I quit, every time I perceived somebody did me wrong or they didn't believe in me. I store all that up in there, and I take the lid off of that when I'm hurting. And I've got a short list of names in that chip on my shoulder, and I revisit it, and I go to that dark place. I kind of unplug and go to that dark place. And then I just focus on, that next light pole, get to that next tree, just one more mile. Don't quit on this mile. You can quit on the next mile. I just keep quitting on that next mile and just got through it. And I know you've been there too. I think we really have to get that elephant down to one small bite at a time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And reaching into the cookie jar and pulling out all of those things that have either hurt you or helped you. I have found that I can operate on both sides of that coin. Is I can run angry for sure. That chip on the shoulder, it's exhilarating. Yeah. But at some point too, like I got to go to the other side of the coin, because you almost get, I don't know if you go through this or not, but I personally, whenever I run angry, I run stupid. And that's when I get nauseated, because it like fires me up so much that I go too far. Yeah. And then I get that nausea like you were talking about. I dealt with that nausea for like, I don't know. I really ripped off a couple good miles. It was like 10 or 15 good solid miles. And then that nausea hit me. And it took me like an hour and a half to get rid of that nausea.
Yeah.
Double fisting the fruit punch Gatorades with the full pack with my Hammer Nutrition Fizz. And I'm like, just trying to get my stomach settled and be able to keep going. But yeah, whenever I run angry, it's like, I get a little bit crazy.
I think in the last couple of races, I've erred on the side of running too angry too early.
Yeah.
And it's exhausting to do that. I just put my earbuds in. I've got a playlist of about 20 songs that I play over and over and over and over. But that's exhausting. So I've also erred on the other side of taking the earbuds out and talking with people as you're running down the course.
Yep.
And sometimes I start to lose focus on why I'm there, what my why is, and also that chip on my shoulder. So there's a balance there. And I'm sure we'll get into it here in a little bit, but this last race I did last weekend, I think I erred on the side of not running angry, of running on that positive side of the chip. So I think I've erred on both sides, and I definitely learned a lot last weekend in that race. And we'll try to make a change for the next shot at my next goal.
Yeah. Why don't we just go ahead and jump into that? You did have a race last weekend. It was 100-miler. And it was you were raising monies for Sarah's cause there. And you didn't have the finish that you wanted to have. Feel free, to start wherever you want to in that journey. And I'm happy to listen, because that is a huge reason why we're having this show, not only to draw attention to ALS, but and ultra marathon running. But I'd love to hear just from a personal standpoint, because I'm embarking on that same endeavor next year as a 100-miler. And I always love listening to the stories about, not all the time are they successful stories about these 100-milers. It's a huge goal. So yeah, I want to hear about your endeavor there.
So in March was the last race I did. That was a 50-mile race. I had gone 54 miles a few months before that. And so after this last race, I actually achieved my goal in that race, was to do the 50 miles in under 10 hours. I finished in 9:56 and some change. So I hit that goal and felt really good. Got out of that race without any injuries and had a pretty quick turnaround mentally. I was ready to go again within a couple of weeks. And it just kind of decided, hey, I need to step it up again. I need to go to 100. And I'm not for sure, probably, I don't know, 100 K would have probably maybe been a smarter jump, as inexperienced as I am. But 50 miles just no longer scared me.
Yep.
I had, the wheels had come off during that 50-mile race at about mile 32, but I got things put back together and finished and hit my goal. So I just decided 100 miles is it. And, in that ultra marathon world, if you can complete 100 miles in under 24 hours, you're starting to make some accomplishments there.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the goal. So I had a late start on getting training for that. My wife and I were preparing for a photo shoot for our 50th birthdays this summer. So I did a big cut, weight and body fat, and just not conducive environment for running. You just didn't have the fuel on board. So at the end of July, I started training for this race, and just instantly on the very first run, a couple of different issues came up, injuries, and they just never went away.
Yeah.
So I ran through those. Injured my left ankle several weeks before the race. So those last 4 weeks, probably before the race, were trying to balance maintaining the conditioning I had, but also trying to rest some stuff. I didn't do very well at either, evidently. So last weekend's race, I love running or low 50s with the light rain. And that's exactly what we had at the start time. It was, 52, 55 degrees, light rain, perfect conditions for me. And got a great start, was ahead of my goal pace up to about mile 18, and had a sharp shooting pain through my ankle. And it got worse mile 18 to mile 31. At mile 31, there was a pop in it, and couldn't move some of my toes. I couldn't put any weight on it. And I was just stopped in my tracks. And I was alone on the trail at that point. I was kind of able to visit that chip on my shoulder a little bit and get going again. I was hampered by that the whole day. But again, in this world, in that ultra marathon world, we can't use those excuses. You're going to deal with that stuff when you're pushing your body to those limits, and you've got to perform. No reasons why, no excuses. You've got to execute. I pushed through and ended up walking every step of the final 24 miles. And I got way behind on schedule. So at mile 79, I was 22 hours into this race. And just kind of ran out of fight. But I lost sight of that, getting to the next light pole, the next tree, just fight through one more mile. And I started doing the math, and I realized walking at this pace with 21 miles left, I still have 7 hours. And I lost sight of keeping things small, and I got overwhelmed by that big picture and just did not see a path to suffering for 7 more hours. I just had that moment where I gave in, and I quit. And so that's been a tough one for me this week. I've had some conversations with people who understand me, kind of know how I'm wired, and those have helped. It still leaves a bad taste in my mouth, but it's fuel to tackle that course and that goal again.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the thing, is the mini games that we have to play out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
These little side quests that we continuously have to play to keep engaged, to not overwhelm ourselves, is literally the hardest task out there. The running isn't even hard. The running is not the difficult part. It's all in here, because if you can keep it, just like you talked about, in those small digestible bits, one more tree, one more mile. Sometimes the mile's too far. Sometimes I got to be like, okay, the next 50 steps, you got this.
Exactly.
And I'll keep bringing it back smaller and smaller so I can stack wins. So that's what I consistently talk about whenever I talk about ultra marathon running, because it is so overwhelming out there when you are like, this last race I did, it was an out and back, and the out and back, you go out 18, then you got to come back 18. And whenever I hit 18 to make the turn, that's where everybody quit. All the cars were parked there. There was nice food there. There was a place to sit. That right there was a perfect place to quit, because not only did you see the aid station, but you had to run by the aid station and then come back to it.
Yeah.
So
It's a subconscious finish line. There's comfort there. There's food.
Right.
There's chairs.
There were chairs, there was food, there were restrooms. And I was like, just give me my other pair of socks and give me my shirt. I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
I got to get out of here. This is not good for me.
Yeah.
You know, because it was comfortable. There were grilled cheeses, you know, it's all of this comfort.
Absolutely.
But I'm like, you can't give in to the comfort right now. You can't. And I was lucky enough to continue down that road, and we finished the race, but it was because I kept it so small.
Yeah.
Because it is just like you said, Kevin, it is so overwhelming whenever you start thinking how bad you feel right now. And you're like, damn, I got to do 7 more hours and it might get worse. Yeah. It's brutal. But listen, and I know I'm sure you've heard this from other people too that have been talking to you about this, is like, you're 2 years into your journey as an ultra marathon runner, and starting at 47 years old and no prior experience. My advice, and you take it for what it's worth, is just treat yourself with a little bit less of a chip on your shoulder, and kind of go to the other side and just give yourself some love on that, because I gotta hand it to you. That's a hell of a job, brother. That's a hell of a job.
I appreciate it. And that's something that I think we all have to work on, is when we have an off day, a bad hour, a bad week, is to not beat ourselves up, and just know that, you know, the next day, the next week is another opportunity to get back on track.
Yep.
You know, and I tell that with clients, especially when it comes to nutrition, when we're trying to transform our bodies and our mindset, nutrition is the most difficult part of it for everybody. And when people have an off-plan meal, they eat something they shouldn't have. You know, you've got to make sure that you don't beat yourself up for that. And that next meal is your next opportunity to get back on track. So I need to do a better job. And I've had a pretty good last few days here of unpacking all this and patting myself on the back a little bit for how far I've come. And you know, during this last race, we've raised, I think we're just short of $18,000 now for Sarah and her fight. Our community donated $15,000 for the March race, so that's $33,000 that this endeavor this year has raised, and that's a huge goal. I'd much rather hit that goal than my own self-serving personal goals.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have to do a better job of that, of not beating myself up, and look at what I've accomplished and map out a game plan and focus all that energy on eventually achieving that goal.
Yeah. So whenever you say the goals of hitting the donations, do you guys have certain goals? And if anybody wanted to donate, where could they donate?
Yeah, I'm sure you operate the same way. I always have goals. I don't do anything without a goal.
Yep.
And an action plan to get there.
Sure.
So the fundraiser was done on Facebook. I just did a Facebook fundraiser there on my page. Anybody can go to my page. I'm just Kevin Murray. You'll find me.
Mm-hmm.
And the fundraiser is all over my page, and there's a link to donate there. We're going to keep that open here for another day or two, probably.
Okay. Awesome. That is so cool. So whenever you're talking about, you said that you are a performance coach as well or is it for athletes? Is it for everyday people? Is it a mixture of both? What is the sauce mix?
You know, our average client, I'm at a gym here in Kansas City, HitchFit, phenomenal team. And our bread and butter is transformation. Our average client probably needs to lose 50 pounds of body fat. And also needs to transform their mindset. They need some tools to learn to start believing in themselves and changing their habits. You know, transforming your mindset is the key. The physical benefits of looking better and feeling better, those are just byproducts of changing your mindset.
So whenever you're talking about changing mindset, what are some of the very first conversations that you're having with your clients?
I think the biggest hurdle that we all face when trying to change behavior, transform our lives, is that internal voice. It's that belief in ourself. Everybody's capable of setting goals and achieving them. We need to change that internal voice and start believing in yourself. And I think the biggest tool for that is to start making and keeping promises to yourself. And some people start down that journey from nothing, but they start out too big. They start with goals that are too big and just not obtainable for them at that point. And so we need to start those promises we make to ourselves very small, very simple. They're almost guaranteed success, and build a couple of victories. Be patient through the process. A lot of us, a lot of people spend 10 and 15 years to get to where they are. We're not going to be able to undo that in a week. So making and keeping super small promises to yourself and build on those victories, and the promises and the significance will get bigger as time goes on.
That is like music to my ears. I got chills a little bit whenever you were talking about that, because I always say, if you can start as small as you possibly can, almost to the point that you're cheating.
Yeah.
So you know that you're going to win, like, you're going to win today, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to have a goal that you're going to achieve, just to keep a promise to yourself to change the mindset.
Absolutely.
Like, if
Change
you can,
voice.
yeah, it's like, hey, guess what? I'm going to wake up today. I'm going to brush my teeth today. I'm going to make myself a sandwich today. Those little things, despite you, like, the one side of your brain that has been in control the whole time is telling you that that's stupid. But this side of your brain is like, no, dude, this is actually what I need to quiet you down.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. And the fact that you said the goals are too big, I can't help but to call you out, Kevin. You do this.
I do this.
Do it yourself.
I do this on a regular basis, and sometimes I have to catch myself.
Yeah.
After not achieving one of those goals, and I have to dial it back. I have to scale back, and I gotta get a couple of smaller victories back in my belt, under my belt, to get that momentum going, and then I'll go chase that unrealistic goal again.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point, that goal is going to become realistic, and I'll achieve it.
Yeah, and that's the part too. Is like, my running coach, he tells me, his name's Jeff Lynn. He's been on the podcast before.
You have a coach?
Yeah.
I should probably get one of those.
You should listen, you should get one, just because, like, I say this too, is like, when you're in the shit, it's hard to see how deep you are. Yeah. It's hard to see anything clearly because you're in it.
Yeah. So
you need somebody that's been there, that sees you and understands what you're doing and what you need to do, because they, just like you have done this past weekend, I have done other weekends, other runs, like, failed. And it's because, for me, it was because I wasn't training the right way, and I wasn't being as patient as I should be, and then training through injuries, and like all of those things sort of stacked up. And then I was like, okay, Jeff, I need you to watch me. I need you to babysit me, because I'm tearing myself up. I'm just like you, Kevin. It's like, none of it scares me. I'll go. Like, I don't care. I will go. If it's if I said I'm going to do it, then that means I have to go do it. That's just who I am. If I say it, I do it. Yeah. And I'm very careful about that now, because I know that about myself, and I say it with caution. And my daughter will tell you too. She'll ask me, like, to promise her something. And I say, sweetheart, I can't promise you that. I will not promise you something that I know that there could be a variable in there that I can't control.
Sure.
Or I'll promise you with a caveat.
Yeah.
So yeah, I strongly recommend getting a coach of some sort, just from an outside perspective, to look in on you and say, hey, what's going on, or somebody that you can lean on just to check in with here and there.
Yeah. And, I think why I have never done that. And I've gotten some advice from some people that I really respect, that are, whether they're runners, their obstacle course is their forte, or just savages that are out there on these ultra endurance events. I've gotten some advice from them and communicated with them. I think one of the reasons why I haven't gotten any formal help is I love the education of the failures.
Yeah.
So there's two sides of that coin of getting the help to maybe speed up achieving your goals. But also I've learned so much doing this on my own and just, suffering through some of these events, and I don't know that I would trade that education for anything. So kind of torn between both worlds there.
I'll give you an example. The one thing that he had showed me and something that I was thinking about was just race prep. So my food intake for race prep. He doesn't really tell me too much about my running or my mileage or anything like that. Because I have that pretty well dialed in and I've had some good success with it. However, my food intake always sucks.
Yeah.
Like I'm just not good at it. I'm not good at keeping track of it because you're trying to think of so many different things. You're playing these games with yourself. You have chatter going on in your head. You got your watch beeping at you. You have the outside world, whether you're on the trail or on the roads or whatever, like, because I don't run with earphones either. So like I'm always listening to all of it. So I have a lot of stimuli going on, and food just seems to be the thing that goes away. Like I just don't think about it because I'm so involved in the other stuff. So now every 20 minutes, I'm taking in food. Every 10 minutes, I'm taking in water, no matter what.
What's your go-to during a race?
I do Hammer Nutrition gels, and I got the big jug of it now. So I just refill those, and it's raspberry is my go-to.
Do you get to a point where the gels and the just that quick sugar hit? Do you ever get to a point where you can't take any more of that sugar and the gel in?
I haven't yet. I've had places. I have trouble with real food.
Yeah.
I have a real hard time with like the potatoes and all of that stuff that they end up having, especially whenever I start to get that nausea going. The gels just seem to be able to digest, and I'll eat pretzels and Pringles. I found have been like my really exciting time is Pringles.
You're so happy for 2 or 3 minutes.
So happy for 5 Pringles. Like it's beautiful. Yeah. Like I can't do PB&Js. It's just too much. Anything complex, my body has a hard time with. I don't know. I just don't have a good time with the regular food. I will drink ginger ale. I'll drink Coca-Cola. I'll drink some of like the sodas to get that ready. But no, I've not run into a situation where like the Hammer gels, listen, I don't love them after 17 hours or whatever, 7 hours on them. But it's the one thing that I know that I can put in my body, and I'm like, I know that I'll be able to digest it. It'll be good. And yeah, but afterwards, don't even look at me with anything raspberry. I don't want to see the gel. I don't want to see nothing.
Yeah. And I think that's a huge key. All of us are so different. Our body responds so differently, and that education and learning what works for you, and also what works at one stage of the race won't work for another.
Yep.
And that's another thing that we have to battle through and figure out.
Yeah. That's something that I've started to try and do is to eat more food the morning of the race, and then try and eat early in the race, like the actual food, because I know I'm not going to be able to eat it mid race or late race. It's just not going to happen. But that's the one thing that Jeff had taught me was you got to eat every 20 minutes. I don't care what you're doing. Like it's got to be every 20 minutes. I know on the little package, it says every 45, it's every 20.
Yeah. And
I tried to do the protein drinks and stuff that you're supposed to do for the ultra runs, and they just taste so bad. I'll do protein bars. I'll eat the protein bars, but it's got to be a vegan protein bar. I can digest the vegan protein so much better than the typical whey protein. It ends up like the whey protein gives me a headache.
Huh.
Yeah, I end up just getting a really bad headache. And even whenever I take it just outside of race day, I get a bad headache. So I've found that like this vegan protein, it's like, I think it's pea protein. It helps me out quite a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my go-to, raspberry goo gels. Yeah. So what do you have on the agenda here coming up? I know that you just did the race over the last weekend. Kind kind of, I'm sure that you're already looking at something else, but what do you have on the agenda?
So it's funny, when I dropped out of that race, I told myself I'm never running again, let alone no races. I'm never running again.
Oh, you went there.
Oh, I did. And
Okay.
I was in a bad spot. Just, the taste of quitting, the taste in my mouth that left was just bad.
Mm-hmm.
But about 8 hours later, I realized there's no way. I have to hit this goal. My ankle's pretty torn up. I've been told to think of, as far as recovery, I've been told to think of months, not weeks. So I've got to get through that to see. They do another race on that course in March. I've got a prior commitment to that race to help pace one of my clients who I'm trying to push into taking that leap into maybe trying to walk the 50K. So I've committed to him for that. So the March race, even if I am healed, I don't know that that's on the table. So really the next definite in my mind is that same race from last week, next October. Got some other smaller races that I'll probably put on the calendar. I'm just not scheduling anything yet until I see how long it takes for my ankle to heal.
Yeah, I had an issue with my calf this past summer, and I do a lot of martial arts, and one of the martial arts I do is Krav Maga, and with that we do sparring, and we can do kicks, we can do punches, just no elbows, knees, or headbutts. So we're out there, we're sparring. I threw a kick, and then I went to throw a switch kick. So that's whenever you your feet are regular, and then you switch them so your non-dominant leg is in the back, and then you come through. Well, in that, you put a lot of weight sort of on your toes, and I threw that switch kick, and something just shot straight up into my calf. It was like somebody took just like a piece of string and pulled it right to the middle of my calf. And nothing popped or tore or anything. It was just, you could definitely tell it was strained. And man, I'll tell you what, I've dealt with that for probably now 12 weeks. I've been dealing with that. And I can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
I can run, I can do all the stuff, and I can still do everything that I normally do. It's just, it gets fatigued a little bit here and there.
Yeah. And it's tough for those of us who are so goal driven to give the body that time to heal. It's tough. I'm already looking at, I'm going to go about 3 more weeks, and then I'm going to test this ankle a little bit, and just nothing crazy, but just to see where it's at. And I think it's just tough for us to sometimes dial back and give our body that time it needs to heal.
Yeah. Well, that's why I keep buying these books and magazines and stuff, because I said one of these days I'm going to be laid up for 12 weeks because I'm going to be an absolute idiot, and I'm going to actually wreck my body, and I'm going to need stuff to do.
Yeah.
So I like National Geographic, Entrepreneur Magazine, all of these these sci-fi books that I'm like, one of these days I'm going to read it because I'm going to be injured as shit.
Yeah. And you'll be ready. You'll have the material.
Yep,
Yeah. So
I'm just prepping.
So as far as what's next, I don't know. I'm definitely going back to that race at some point in the next 12 months and hitting that goal. And right now, I'll just keep focusing on progress and inspiring my clients and those that follow me and my content. I don't have a huge following, but I get pretty good engagement. And that's why I do what I do. I don't post on social media to, hey, look at me, or, I only post when I've got something to say and maybe to share a lesson that I've learned on this journey in hopes of helping others. And so as far as official races, we'll see. That one's definitely coming up. I'll add a couple other short ones. And right now, here in Missouri, the bow hunting's getting hot and heavy right now. It's kicked off this week, and I haven't been in a tree yet. Actually going to see if I can climb in and out of a tree this afternoon and get a little time in the woods. So kind of shift gears.
Yeah, they're starting to run over here too. I got to get out myself. I just contacted the landowners that I hunt on and let them know that I'd be coming out here soon, because my tall tale sign whenever I'm feeling the itch is when I'm driving down Interstate 80 and I see shrapnel of deer everywhere. I know they're on the move. And then once the weather turns to pretty cold after that, I said, okay, now I know. I'm on the way to class the other night, and one huge day walker just right in front of me, right in front of the car into the woods. I'm like, all right, the big boys are heating up.
Yeah.
And then I saw one the other day, his neck was all puffed up. So the rut is in.
Yeah. Yeah.
What kind of bow do you shoot?
I've got a Hoyt Ventum that I just got this year.
Ooh, okay.
I've been a Matthews guy before that. I wanted to try Hoyt, and I love this bow.
Okay. Do you use fall away rest, or are you still whisker biscuit? What do you use?
I'm still old school whisker biscuit. I try to keep things as simple as possible, especially elk hunting out west in Colorado. I try to keep things as simple as possible. I'm not a real handy guy, so I can't have something real complicated go wrong that I have to try to fix. So
no, I understand that completely. Yeah, I went fall away rest because I got rid of the whisker biscuit, and then I use a thumb release now instead of the finger release, sort of the middle ground between that and the hinge release, because the hinge release scares me all to death.
Yeah, me too.
I feel like you have to put in so much time to be able to shoot that release. I feel like.
Yeah. I shoot a thumb release as well. I have for several years. So, and you won't be surprised by the Hoyt Ventum. The model that I have is Cameron Haynes' model, and I paid an extra $50 to have his signature on the bow. So
I love it.
But I love it, man. Now I don't have a 90-pound bow. I did go with the 80, but even shooting that 80 pounds was wearing me out. We had to dial it back to about 76 now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I love this bow. I've always liked Matthews, but this Ventum, a little bit longer axle to axle length, is a lot more stable for me, and I really enjoy shooting it.
Yeah, the longer limb length it takes a little bit of that off of the user and puts it onto the limbs as far as a drawback goes, right?
Yeah. Just more stable platform to shoot from.
Now, with your stabilizer itself, how long of a stabilizer do you shoot?
I'm shooting, it's in the middle range. I think I've got a 9-inch stabilizer on.
Okay. Yeah. Some of those, I don't know if you follow them, Wicked Sticks. Have you ever seen those guys? Yeah. So Wicked Sticks, they make out I think they're more for like 3D shoots or something, not for hunting, because their stabilizers are they're huge.
Yeah.
That counterweight on the other side. So yeah, I run a real small one, and supposedly it's supposed to be quieter. So it's got all those goofy little modules on it. Cause that's the thing too out there. Anybody who's not a hunter, as quiet as you think that bow is, the deer hear it. It's unbelievable how good they can hear. I don't even know that they can hear it. I feel like they can feel the vibration or something. Of that bow, because they jump.
Into it. Yeah.
Yeah, they jump the string, they call it.
Yeah.
But all right, man. Well, hey, I want to be respectful of your time. I know that you have things going on over on your side, but again, just for any listeners out there who would like to follow along with what you have going on, you said you have your Facebook page. I found you on Instagram, which I found to be a really enjoyable page to look at. So feel free to shoot over your socials and where they can check you out at.
On Instagram, I'm Kevin Murray 100. I don't know if that's any correlation to this 100-mile goal. That's just how it started. And then on Facebook, I'm Kevin Murray, and you'll find me. There's only a couple.
Awesome. Well, hey, Kevin, good luck to you on your next endeavor. I'll be following along with your journey, and yeah, man, take care, rest yourself up, come back bigger and stronger next time.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks for having me, and you have a good day.
Awesome. Thank you. As always, guys, enjoy the journey. Take care.
Thank you so much for sticking here until the very, very end. If you wouldn't mind just leaving a comment or subscribing or liking the podcast or wherever you downloaded this, maybe it was from YouTube, I would love for that. You take an extra couple seconds to give us some more love. Even though you have listened here to the very, very end, we appreciate that so much. Could you also go over to thestarspodcast.com if you found any of this really interesting and you wanted to dive in a little bit further, or go to our Discord, which is Rocinante Studios NFT. Enjoy the journey.